Hi everyone, you're welcome back to the channel. It's Bimsy Styling here again, and in today's tutorial we'll be learning how to cut and sew this beautiful cowl neck dress with an opened back. So this tutorial is beginners friendly, and if this sounds like something you're interested in learning, please do well to stay to the end. For the recreation of this dress, I'll be adding a sleeve to the dress which we will be making. This is because the client who owns the dress actually wants it with a sleeve. So now let's get right into it. So here I have all the items needed for my draft: the pattern paper, curved ruler, marker pen, and my tape roll. So this particular cowl neck design worn by Vicky James doesn't have any form of waist joining, hence the reason for drafting a gown. So for on our draft, we would actually be drafting a basic gown. So I went ahead to take my chest line, and next I'll be taking the half length for the dress, and after which I will take the hip line also, that is about 8 inches from the half length, and I'll go ahead to mark my gown length. So the entire pattern paper will be used for my gown length, but then I'll be adding extra to it on my fabric. So I'll be making use of this entire pattern paper for the gown length, but on my fabric I'll be adding more to extend the length of my dress. So I went ahead to mark the lines. So that's the chest line which I have marked there. I'll also go ahead to mark my half length for the dress, and then I would also mark the hip line which we actually ticked earlier. So I'm done drawing out all the straight lines. The next thing I will do is to take the shoulder measurement divided by 2, and I'll do that taking it on the shoulder line and also on the chest line. After connecting both points together, for my shoulder slope I'll be making use of 1 inch for this draft. So on that line I came down by 1 inch. For the neck width, I'll be making use of the basic neckline 3 inches, and then I'll connect it straight to the shoulder slope. So to get my armhole, I'll divide my bust by 4, and then I'll mark it on the chest line like so. And from my shoulder slope to the chest line, I'll divide into 2, going by half an inch, and then connect it from the bust through to the mid armhole and then to the shoulder slope. Now I'll be marking all other round measurements. So the waist divided by 4, I'll go ahead and mark that on the half length. So for this particular cowl neck design, we are maintaining the same half length for the front and the back. We are not making use of any form of dart because this cowl neck design is a dartless pattern. So we do not need any form of dart to create this. So on the hip line, I'll go ahead to mark my hip divided by 4, and I'll do so on the hip line, and I'll connect from the hip measurement to the waist. After connecting the waist to the hip, from the hip line, I'll come down by 2 inches. The reason I usually do this is so that we do not end up having any form of pointy curve along the hip. So when you do this, you have a very smooth transitioning of your hip when you are sewing. So here, whatever I have on the hip line is the same thing that I will repeat on the 2 inches mark which I came down from the hip line. And once that is done, I will just connect it straight up with just the not a very curvy point now, just slightly, so you can see it there. So my hip area is covered, no any form of pointy curves at all. So for my nail shaping for this particular dress, I only tightened the nail by half an inch. So why I did this is because I am actually going to work with a stretchy crepe fabric, a stretchy one. This fabric stretched on both sides, both on the length side and also on the yardage side. So I went ahead to just deduct half inch from my hip value, and that is what I marked on the nail line. So I'll connect from the hip straight into the nail line like so. So for this particular cowl neck dress, please ensure that you do not have any form of dart on your pattern because this is a dartless design. It doesn't need any dart at all. Another thing to note is that it is a gown with no joining on the waist. There is no seam line on the waist at all. So if you are doing this and you want to recreate it exactly the way it was, do not have any form of joining on the waist. So here I went ahead to label my pattern, the chest line, the half length, the hip, the knee line, and then my center front. So the next thing I will do is to also take the neck depth, which is 3 inches. I'll mark that and then I'll connect it with my curved ruler. So for my back pattern, I will just be tracing out whatever I have on the front. I'll fold my pattern paper into two and trace it. This pattern is actually the simplest method you can use to get your cow neck dress with an open back. So I went ahead to fold this and then I'll be tracing out everything I have on this pattern. Note that, like I said, no waist joining. Another thing, the third thing to note is that we are maintaining the same half length for both the front and the back. So this is a very simple method which you can follow as a beginner to achieve a very good result. So I went ahead to trace out every line that I have on this pattern: the chest line, the half length, the hip line, the nail, and every of the curve, the armhole, every part of this pattern was traced out like so. So now that I'm done tracing all that we have on the front pattern, I'm done tracing, so I'll flip it over to the other side like so. And then the next thing I will do is to use my pencil and trace out everything that we have marked, everything that we have traced from the front. I'll use my pencil to trace it out just like so. After tracing, then with my pencil, so this is what we have for the back, and then I'll open up the pattern like this. So here's the front and here's the back of our dress. So I separated the two patterns so that we can work on it separately. So I'll be starting with the front pattern, and here we'll go ahead and slash through the chest line. The exact line we marked as our chest line is what I follow through, and then I'll slash with my scissors. Now, you do not slash to the very end of the pattern. You have to leave about little, a very little there, so that you still have the two parts connected together while you have slashed open this very chest line. So I'll go ahead to get a plain pattern paper, and I'll place my slashed pattern on the plain pattern paper. So take note of how I place this. When you are placing yours, ensure that the center front of your pattern, that's the dress, ensure that the center front and the straight line on the pattern paper which you placed underneath, ensure that they are matching. So you can see the center front of my dress also matching up with the tip, the straight part of the pattern paper which I placed under. So I went ahead to hold down my pattern with my paper tape. So I have the pattern paper underneath secured together with the paper tape. So here, to open up the cowl effect, so you need to actually determine this. So I used 6 inches, and the reason for doing this is because the client who owns this dress doesn't want her bust exposed. So the higher you go, the more exposed your bust area is. So for this particular dress, I made use of 6 inches. You could do 7, 8 if you so wish. Like I said, the higher you go, the more exposed your bust is. But for a moderate cow neck, you can do 6 inches, just exactly what I did here. So I went ahead to mark that 6 inches point, and on that point I'll get my paper tape and then tape down the neckline, that's the slashed paper. I'll tape it down to the paper we have underneath. So this is exactly what we have. So I'll tape it through like that. I will secure it. Now to get the neckline for a cow neck, because of course it does have a neckline. To get the neckline, the tip, the 3 inches mark we have for the basic neckline when drafting, that is the point that will determine the neckline for the dress. So from that tip, from that 3 inches point, I will then get my straight ruler and connect it straight from that point to the center front. So I'll be connecting from that point to the center front. So note that the 3 by 3 inches we earlier marked is not useful or is not used when making a cow neck. It only helps us to determine where the cow neck is going to start from. I hope you understand this. If you have any question, you can drop it in the comment section. Now for a cow neck, another thing to note is that your facing should not be separate from your dress. Your facing should not be separated from your top. So I'll go ahead on that line, I'll fold my paper, that's the plain paper underneath, fold it into two, following that straight line I just marked, and then flip it underneath like so. So like I said, this is the neckline for the cow neck dress. So I have folded it, and you can see that that is where the neckline is going to start from. So for the facing, I also folded the plain pattern paper into two to get that. So I noticed that I still have an excess on the center front part of this pattern paper which I placed under. So I need to maintain a straight line there. So I connected it from the facing from the neckline of the cow neck straight into the pattern paper, and then I'll cut that part out to ensure that it is straight. So as a beginner, I want you to note that when you are making a cow neck dress, you should not separate your facing and your main fabric. If you watch the foreign designers, the way the cow neck is made, it is not separated. You don't have any form of joining between the facing and the main dress. So hence is the reason why we flipped our pattern paper underneath the main pattern we drafted. So now I will go ahead to cut out the facing following through our pattern. You can see I cut through the shoulder line, then into the armhole. That is, I am actually cutting it out on the paper underneath. So follow through like so, and then I'll cut through like that, and I will determine where I want the facing to end. So I actually took it into the dress itself, and this is it. So after cutting, I want the facing to end about 3 inches away from the chest line. So what I did was to take 3 inches measurement from the chest line. You can see my tape rule. I'll go ahead and mark 3 inches there, and I would mark it on the other side, get my straight ruler and connect it together with a straight line. So after connecting it, I'll get my tracing wheel and I'll trace it out. I will then open up my pattern, that's the facing and the main pattern. I would open it up like so, and on the 3 inches which I marked, that I traced out rather, I'll cut out whatever excess that we have left. So I'll take it out like so. So this is where my facing will end. So now you can see the facing of this cow neck, and you can see the main dress itself. So the straight line we have there is going to be the neckline. That is where the cow neck effect will start from. So this is what it will look like after joining. So now let's head over to the back. Here I have the back pattern, and the first thing I'll do is to do the back tightening of ½ inch on the waistline, and from the ½ inch I will connect it to the neck with my straight ruler, and then also connect it from the ½ inch back tightening to the hip line. So this is it. For the back neck, I came down by 1.5 inches, 1.5 inches, and then I maintained the 3 inches width. So I'll connect the 2 points together with the curved ruler. Now from the 1.5 inch mark for the back neckline, I came down by 2 inches. Thus, I came down on the slanted line that was used for the back tightening. So that's it there. So I came down by 2 inches, and next I will take another 2 inches inward. I will take another 2 inches. That's from the 2 inches which I came down. I'll go in again by 2 inches, and then I'll mark that line, that I'll connect it as a straight line like so. Now from the back chest line, I came down by 2.5 inches. So I'll go ahead to mark the 2.5 inches on the slanted line for the back tightening. All of this measurement I took at the center back is actually on the slanted line for the back tightening. So I'll be extending the 2.5 inches mark with my straight ruler. Now on that line, I'll go ahead to take 5 inches from the center back, that's the slanted line. I'll take 5 inches. Now I'll connect my 5 inches mark together with the 2 inches like so. With my free hand, I will blend in that angle because that part is slightly curved. so it is not a sharp edge, so I will blend in that angle like so, just with my free hand. Then I'll highlight all the markings with my marker pen. And this is it, we are done with the back. I'll go ahead now to cut out the back pattern. Starting from our back tightening, I'll take that part out. Then I'll cut through the other lines that we have there, the back opening, the neckline, the side. Now I would transfer my pattern to fabric, and I have my fabric folded into two, and to cut out the front pattern. This fabric is actually a stretchy one. It's a crepe fabric, but it's stretchy on both sides, both on the length side and also on the yardage side. So here is my front pattern placed, the center front matching up with the folded part, and I've gone ahead to pin the pattern and the fabric together. So now I'll go ahead to cut out, adding up my seam allowance. Before I do that, I extended the length of my dress. Like I said, I'll be extending the length on fabric. So this is what I did at this point. I extended the length of the dress. Now I'll go ahead to cut what I have. On the side, I added half an inch as the side seam. So cutting through the armhole, I also added half an inch for the sleeve joining. Now at the shoulder, I also added half an inch. So this point is the shoulder for the main dress. And at that point, I would also add half an inch to the shoulder of the facing. And this is how you cut your facing when you have it attached to the pattern. That's the pattern for the main dress. So here I'm cutting out the shoulder for the facing, and then I'll be cutting out the armhole. I also added half an inch to the armhole of the facing, and to the side also of the facing I added half an inch like that. And also I'll be adding half an inch to the hem of that facing. So I had to cut through so that you can see what we have there after taking out the fabric. So I added half an inch to this part of the facing as well. So this is what our front looks like. I'll take out the pattern paper, and this is it after taking out the pattern paper. So I'll fold it in like so. This is what your front will look like after folding in your facing like so. I'll fold it in. So after taking out the pattern paper, and you connect the body, that's the back body, to the front, this is what it will look like. You can see the cowl effect there. Once your shoulder for the back and front is connected, then you have this cowl effect. Now let's cut out the back pattern. For the back, this is it. I added half inch to the shoulder, neck, to the back opening, then 1 inch for the zipper, and then half inch at the armhole, half inch on the side. So this is it for the back. Now I'll be cutting the facing for the back, and my fabric is on fold so I can have both sides of the back cut together. So I placed it like so. You determine exactly where you want the facing to end, but of course the facing must cover up the back opening. So that means the facing should go beyond the back opening. So after cutting out the facing, here's the two sides of my back. I went ahead to pin down the facing and the main fabric together, and on each part I'll be sewing it down with half an inch. Just the way you see there, I'll be sewing it down with half an inch for both sides of the back. So after sewing and pressing, this is what we have. You can see the back opening is neatly sewn. So I'll go ahead now to place my center back together. I'll match up the center back together. And after pinning it down, I will take my 1 inch which was added to the center back. I'll sew through, starting from the back opening, I'll sew through to the hem of the dress. So this is it after joining both sides together with the 1 inch seam allowance. So the next thing is to place the front on the back, and then I will match them up side by side and also match up the shoulder. So I went ahead to pin down my front shoulder and my back shoulder together. So I'll pin it down like so, and I used the front shoulder to neatly turn the back shoulder. So this is it after joining the back and the front shoulder together. So you can see it's neatly joined. I used the front to turn the back. You can see both sides of the back of the shoulder rather. So the next thing is to mark them up together at the sides. So I'll pin down the sides, the front and the back together, and then take it over to the sewing machine and sew down our seam allowance, which was added when cutting the fabric. After doing that, I'll attach the sleeve to the dress and also tack the hook for the neckline. And once that is done, the dress is ready. Thank you all for watching today's tutorial. I'll see you all in my next tutorial. Bye.